What's up, everybody? Welcome to another stream. I'm here with Carlos as usual. Gonna be a pretty short one today. Chill stream, just talking about what's in the news. I'm gonna try to get my desk to stop shaking for once and my camera to focus. But it wouldn't be a Marxist stream without some kind of technical difficulties. Um, Long live the Soviet Union and the Soviet hockey team. Miracle on Ice is a stupid piece of shit propaganda movie. And Soviets dominated the Olympics all through the 20th century, and the U.S. won one game, and they made movies about it. And because the U.S. couldn't beat the Soviets at sports, they had to make Rocky IV, this fake ass movie about them defeating a Soviet robot and Sylvester Stallone tearing down the Soviet Union. So that shows you how thoroughly the Soviets dominated in sports. But we got a lot going on today. Carlos and I have both been reading a lot of history, a lot of theories, so we can talk about a little bit of that today if you want. Maybe we could talk about the book you just read, Carlos. I think it'd be an interesting topic, even though we're, maybe 30, 40 years too late on its relevance. That's all right. It's still, books are always relevant. That's the good thing about books. But yeah, how are you doing? What do you make of what's in the news cycle lately?
I'm doing really good. I feel that sentiment about the shaky desk. It prohibits us as good Khrushchevites from slamming our shoe on the table. I'm just joking, guys. We're Stalinists. Um, the news, man. The news are newsing it up. To put it in some form. It's uh, it's so unexpected. Like things point one direction, and you think, oh, all the factors are pointing this direction. Then they make a sudden turn in the other way, and it's at some point I'm like, I'm just gonna go back into reading theory and let some of the stuff unfold before I comment on anything, because it's been like months that feel like decades. At least the first 3 months of the year, that's kind of what it feels like on my end.
Yeah, it feels like it's been 6 years since Charlie Kirk died. I just tweeted
Yeah.
that. Um, you know, and now we are all Charlie Kirk. We are Charlie Kirk. Just kidding. But I think they killed him, by the way.
Yeah.
Based on what I heard Laura Loomer saying recently about how often she talks to Trump and her tweets about Charlie Kirk being an anti-Zionist before she died. But thanks everybody for joining us. We'll talk quite a bit about Iran today, I'm sure. But as Carlos said, when there's an active war going on, it's really difficult to tell what's what. Like every week, they're like Netanyahu's dead, Yoav Gallant's dead, everybody's dead. The U.S. was saying the new supreme leader Ayatollah is dead, and none of these turned out to be true. So, and it's easy, you can tweet out, this guy's dead, and you're gonna get a bunch of social media clout. So that's the dumbass era we're living in, and I recommend everybody be careful with who you follow on social media and try not to spend too much time on it. Although I know I'm guilty of that. We can also talk about my dental care this week because the U.S. dental system is a mess, and I've been spending way too much money on that bullshit. But we'll get into all of these topics and more right after the intro.
High Sheriff Hazard is a hard man to be. High Sheriff is his only plan. He digs through pockets, takes what he can, for he's High Sheriff Hazard. He caught me one evening, and here's what he said: "You look like a Russian, you look like a red. And if you're fond of your skin and your head, beware the High Sheriff of Hazard." mustard right out on his ear. Farewell to her, Sheriff Hazard.
All right. Does the ACP have dental care? Absolutely. It's actually, I think it might even mention that specifically in the program, because I know that's a big deal for elderly people. They're always trying to cut dental care from Medicare funding. And it's a big thing in the UK too. They're always trying to remove dental care from the NHS. So it's important. Teeth are definitely healthcare. You can die if you get tooth infections that don't get taken care of. So that's what I was doing today, setting up a root canal and getting some radiation poisoning from the x-rays. So that's great. And then they're like, here's some radiation. That'll be $300. If you don't give us $2,000, you'll literally die. That's the average trip to the dentist in America. But yeah, Trump said Iran are out of launchers. Yeah, it's it's so interesting how confused the rhetoric is from the administration. Like, Hegseth, Rubio, and Trump are all saying different things to the point where it even sounds like they're taking shots at each other at points where they'll be like, one guy's saying this, but actually it's that. And today Trump was saying how incredible Iran is at media and propaganda. He was saying they're like very strategic. He was saying they're very wise. He was saying they have a very powerful military, but we've destroyed it. Their military's gone, folks. And it's it's I hate that movie Idiocracy, but it really is like a good description of the empire in decay. Like we just have these idiots running our country, and some people are still gobbling it up, but others aren't. Especially as gas prices rise, things are starting to change. And I have a video today that'll reflect that, or kind of show how regular Americans are starting to turn on Trump. And of course, like, people on Twitter are giving them shit, which is, fine. People I like are saying things like, oh, a genocide was fine, but gas prices going up $1, that's too far, which, in a world that made sense, yes, that would be logical. Like, how are you going to support a genocide? And then, when gas prices go up $1 a gallon, all of a sudden that's too far. But that's how things work, man. Not everybody's glued to Twitter. Not everybody's glued to geopolitics, but everybody has to drive to work. Everybody has to buy food for their family. Everybody has to pay their rents and their debts. And this is what's so important about having a theoretical understanding of imperialism as the highest stage of capitalism, which is that, one of the chapters in imperialism is called the decay and parasitism of capitalism, which, what a perfect and apt description of what's happening in our society today, where all of our resources being spent on these wars abroad is coming back to hurt people here at home. And a lot of times it's not till people are affected in their day-to-day lives that they actually, look up from the sports betting and the video games and whatever else, or just, the grind to try and make enough money to get by, and realize what's actually happening. So that's what we're seeing now. And strategically, it's a moment for communists to reach out to people and to draw that connection for them, and to say, I was doing it with my friends this weekend. I was at the National Wrestling Tournament for Division III, and I was seeing a bunch of my old friends who I haven't seen in a while, and explaining to them how, most of them being Trump voters and Trump supporters, explaining to them how all of our resources going to these wars, and Iran retaliating by hitting the Gulf states is going to lead to higher oil prices here at home. And, they're all like, yeah, we need to just overthrow the government and get rid of all these politicians. And I'm like, all right, join the American Communist Party then. Put your money where your mouth is.
Yeah, I think you made the correct point there. Most Americans, unfortunately, we have to be realists. They'll care more about things when they feel it in their pocketbook than seeing the most horrendous stomach-turning images. If it's not, it could be in the town next door, and they still wouldn't give a fuck. That's just the sad reality. And so it's up to us as people who understand that whatever we do abroad, the chickens are always going to come home to roost. It's people like us who understand that what we've done the last 3 years to the Palestinians was going to end up in where we're at now, which was always in some way, shape, or form going to affect the American working class, to bring about that connection for them, to show them how these things are interconnected. Because what's the average American doing? They go to work, they get home, and they fucking death scroll, or they watch shows and they indulge in entertainment and the culture industry just because they're exhausted from the meaningless, soul drenching work that they're forced to do for 8 to 10 hours a day, plus however long commuting is. And they're basically brain dead by the time that they get home. You think they're going to be studying? You think they're going to be following the news? If they get anything that's news related, it's going to be bits and pieces. And at best, it's going to provide a very incoherent consciousness. That's what their common sense is. It's an incoherent worldview. Here, Gramsci got it absolutely right. But who are the people that have had the time, that have had the experience to think about things systematically, to actually concentrate? This is why the TikTokification of the brain and thinking is so hurtful for communists, because in order to develop a systematic analysis, it's necessarily one that requires a process of concentration. If you can't concentrate past a 3-minute Instagram reel, you're not going to be able to understand how all of these moving parts are interconnected. And so it's up to us to provide that interconnection, to provide that knowledge to them, to show them why it is that when they fucking fight the anti-imperialist struggle against the Zionists, against the U.S. empire, they're at the same time fighting the struggle for their own class, because it's going to fucking hit them sooner or later. And the hits that they're feeling now at their pocketbooks, the hit that they felt in their pocketbooks during the Biden regime when the proxy war against Russia was just being intensified at the beginning, that's all correlated to this global system of super imperialism that the United States is the unipolar power and the center of.
Yes, absolutely. And salute to the Iranians for fighting back against this. Trump and the Americans have reached out to try and get a peace agreement multiple times, to try and get a ceasefire multiple times, now that they're the ones on the end of the bombs. And Iran has refused. Iran has said, we don't trust you. And this is exactly why we support the Iranian Revolution. And if you don't mind, I'll go on a little bit of a tangent about that. For those who are interested about learning about this more in depth, for one, we just posted a infographic on Instagram in conjunction with our comrades at Real, which is an organization in Florida, where some of their comrades are also joining the ACP and doing a lot of great work for us. And I'm also working on an article with my buddy Ruslan to explain why the Iranian left wing, the Iranian Marxist-Leninists, failed, and the Islamic revolutionary succeeded. But I mean, it all goes back to, you have to be a materialist. You have to look at the objective reality. Are you going to support some irrelevant communist party in Iran that's made up of people who aren't even living in Iran, who are posting joint statements with the Communist Party of Israel, an ethno-state that, shouldn't even exist? It should just be Palestine. Or are you going to back the people who are fighting the U.S. empire head on? I mean, that's the question. Of course, we aren't 100% ideologically in line with the Islamic revolutionaries, but they're the ones who have the power to fight imperialism and are actually using that power. Now, for those who don't know, the name of the Marxist-Leninist party in Iran that was once very powerful and influential was the Tudeh party, Tudeh. And they were really picking up steam in the 1940s. They had the support of the Soviet Union. Iran was semi-feudal, but they had an emerging industrial proletariat. And the Tudeh party was able to create a trade union movement of like 30,000 people. So almost all of the Iranian trade unionists and organized workers and industrial proletariat were either being led by the Communist Party or were members of the Communist Party. So they were doing great things. Now, unfortunately, in 1946, they decided to basically, rather than being patriotic and listening to the working class of their own country, they signed an agreement, or I don't know if it was ever a formal agreement, but they followed the Soviet Union's position on the Iran crisis, which we've talked a lot about how the Soviet Union, how our interpretation of, of course, we love the Soviet Union. I'm wearing a friggin' CCCP hockey jersey right now, but their interpretation of the national question led to quite a few mistakes in the early years, where they were trying to sort of balkanize countries by ethnicity in the name of national self-determination, rather than creating these massive, powerful, multi-ethnic, unified civilization states. So the Iran crisis was this situation where the Kurds wanted a state, and then I believe Azerbaijan wanted some of Iran's land. And rather than siding with what the majority of the Iranian people wanted, which was a unified Iran with multiple ethnicities in it, the Tudeh party took the Soviet position of supporting Azerbaijan and the Kurds taking parts of Iranian land. And this is what made the Iranian nationalists more popular than the Iranian communists. This destroyed their credibility and caused them to be seen by the Iranian people as foreign assets. It's very similar to what happened with the CPUSA, where they were just taking orders from Moscow rather than trying to develop a uniquely American form of socialism that could catch on with the American people. So if you know Iranian history, you know that it was ultimately the nationalists who won out with Mohammad Mossadegh winning election for prime minister in 1951, who was an anti-communist, although he was supported by the Tudeh party here and there. They were kind of tacit in their support, but they mostly backed him because he wanted to nationalize the oil that was being stolen from the Iranians by the British, just completely ripped off. The British had some agreement where Iran was getting like 2% of the oil profits from their own country. So Mossadegh became incredibly popular, won election in 1951. And in 1953, the U.S. and British moved to coup him. Now, the Tudeh party warned him that this would happen, but many people think that they didn't mobilize enough in order to protect Mossadegh and protect the Iranian nationalists, which allowed them to be overthrown in 1953 by a British-backed coup. Now, this brought into power the Shah, the Pahlavi family, that is still out there yapping about how Iran is theirs and they need to be the leaders of Iran. That guy's such a clown. I don't know if he's the grandson or son of the Pahlavi, grandson of the Pahlavi who was installed by the coup. But after the coup, Iran went back to having a complete and total monarchy, which Mossadegh wanted to maintain the monarchy, but mostly like British style, where it would just be irrelevant, and the nationalists would be running the country. But after the coup, the monarchists got full control, and the Shah ruled with an iron fist through the power of the Savak secret police, which was a secret police force trained up by, guess who? Can you guess? The Mossad of Israel. So essentially, an Israeli-controlled regime was installed in Iran, and this was a death knell for the Tudeh party. Many people say that the Tudeh party was crushed by the Iranian Revolution and the Islamic revolutionaries. That's not the case. It was the Israeli, British, US-backed monarchy and their secret police that absolutely decimated the Tudeh party, made communism illegal, exiled or killed or imprisoned all of their leaders. And now the Tudeh party is basically a completely irrelevant force in Iran, and almost all of their members are immigrants, people in the diaspora who aren't even living in Iran. So that was essentially the death of the Tudeh party. Now, later on, there was this group called the MEK. It's some Persian word.
They're the ones that back Bolton now.
Yeah. The People's Mojahedin Organization of Iran, which was basically a communist organization. And they actually had some popularity. And they were supportive at first of the Islamic Revolution. They helped the Islamic Revolution come to power. It was mostly it was too rooted in intellectuals and not rooted enough in the proletariat. Like, there are things to critique there. But overall, they were pretty good. And they helped the Iranian Revolution happen in 1979. But later on, because the Muslims were in power rather than the communists, these idiots, I'm sorry, guys, like I respect what you did, but they sided with Saddam in the Iraq-Iran war when Saddam was being propped up by the CIA because they saw him as a tool that they could use to attack Iran. So in the name of communism, they sided with the guy who was gassing Iranians. And of course, this killed their support with the Iranian people. And then at that point, the Muslim leadership cracked down on them because they were backing a foreign power that was gassing their people. And that was essentially the end of the MEK's relevance, and support was consolidated behind the Islamic revolutionaries. So when you hear people saying that we need to support the communist groups in Iran, like the Tudeh Party, they're talking about these irrelevant organizations that have shot themselves in the foot. Like, I'm sorry, but they put themselves in this position by making their own mistakes. And if they would have taken or developed a uniquely Iranian form of socialism, they had the chance to take power. They probably would have taken power. But that's not how history played out. History is not a video game. We have to deal with things as they are, objectively, as they exist in material reality. And what happened in reality is the Islamic Revolution won, and now they are on the front lines fighting the global imperialist Zionist elites, and fighting them more fiercely than anyone else. I mean, we have the example of Venezuela, and of course, I love Venezuela, and I hope they work their way out of this situation. But while Venezuela appears to be caving to the U.S. empire, and they're closer, more under the U.S. empire's nose, they don't have the same military capacity. I get it's not a perfect comparison. But while Venezuela seems to be caving after their leader was kidnapped, Iran had their leader killed and is fighting back with everything they have and rejecting ceasefire agreements and peace agreements. So that is why we back Khomeini and the Islamic Revolution in Iran. And I could go more into the theory behind the Islamic Revolution and how ingenious it is, and how Khomeini, the one before Khamenei, the way he kind of reinterpreted Shia Islam and used it to make real political material implications for actually existing Iranian society. It's quite genius and interesting, but I'll take a break for a second and let you react to my long rant.
No, it's an important one because this is something that the Soviets were great, but they made a lot of mistakes. And as we frequently say, one of the central mistakes was dictating a lot of countries' policies just straight from Moscow and not letting countries do what the Soviets themselves had to do in order to succeed, which is be attuned to their own specific civilizational context. And supporting the sort of balkanization and separatism that they did in the case of Iran was shooting themselves in the foot. What you mentioned about towards the end of your comments, there are some Marxists that did actually try to give Iranian characteristics to their Marxist analysis and to socialism, and a lot of them just stayed with the Iranian Revolution of '79. A lot of them were forced because of the dogmatism of the so-called Marxists and Tudeh and the other parties to just be with the quote-unquote Islamists and to be like the Marxists within the Islamic movement. There's also this other group. I don't know if you know much about it, Eddie, but it's called Ten Mir, which is a group of former or current Tudeh people, but they're like supportive of the regime. They don't want it to be overthrown. But they're
Never heard of
critical
them.
internally. They're critical internally. They're former leaders and cadre of Tudeh who are supportive of the regime, don't want it to be overthrown, but then are critical of some of the neoliberal policies that are often taken by the reformists. I only know of them because they've published maybe like a handful to half a dozen articles of mine that I didn't even know existed. They just picked them up in the internet and republished it. And I got scared because I saw Tudeh and I'm like, oh my God, these are like the I hope they know what I think about Iran. I hope they know I think Iran is based. And then when I looked them up, there's like, they arise out of 1991 when the Soviet Union falls. They basically consider the mainstream Marxists in Iran to be dogmatic and idiotic social democrats. and they develop their own thing. I don't know how big they are, but I do know that when I spoke about this with Chris, he mentioned that the people that have tried to take the most principled Marxist position to develop a Marxism attuned to that civilizational context ended up just siding with the Islamic revolutionary forces.
Yeah, I mean, it would be easy to. Why not? And everything I'm saying and we could talk a little bit more about our interpretation and application of Marxism in America, because I see people asking questions about that. And that's something we both love talking about, because
Yep.
I got a bunch of non-communist American thinkers on my bookshelf right now that I love, Thomas Paine being one of the main ones. But really, Khomeini, I can't ever pronounce his name. Ruhollah Khomeini, nice. He did what the communists should have done, and he created this beautiful synthesis. And this is what Haas has been talking about lately, with Marxism needing to reevaluate religion and the materialist implications of religion, because that's what Khomeini did in the most incredible way. So I made a post about this a while back, and I may have talked about it on stream too. But obviously Iran is 95% Shia Muslim. And in the Shia tradition, they hold, in the Sunnis do as well, but he's more important to Shias. They hold this guy named Hussein in very, very high regard. And this was at a time when the Muslim societies, way back, hundreds of years ago, thousands of years ago, or more than 1,000 years ago, were becoming dynastic and oppressive and very feudalistic, I guess. I don't know how to describe it. Very monarchical, where you had like one leader and then his son would be a leader no matter how much he sucked. And basically Hussein refused to legitimize the newest dynastic leader of Muslim society at that time. And because he did this, before any kind of real rebellion could materialize, which, the conditions were there based on what historians know about that time period, the conditions were possibly there for a rebellion to materialize behind Hussein. He was killed by this new leader whose name was Yazid. He was ambushed and killed, but they fought to the end. Hussein and the people around him, even though they were fighting against insurmountable odds, they fought to the end. And what Khomeini did when he was sent into exile after 1950, I think it was in the 60s, under the rule of the Shah, he was sent into exile for denouncing the Shah and comparing him to Yazid, this dynastic ruler. He developed this theory basically saying we need to draw real material political implications from the story of Hussein. We need to be Hussein in the modern era and take back our country from these dynastic foreign-backed leaders who are oppressing the people. And that is what rallied so many people behind, or many of the people behind, the Islamic Revolution in 1979. And that is brilliant. That's what we're talking about when we say you have to go into your own country's history. You have to find out what the working class in your country actually believes, and you have to draw rational kernels from that and real political implications today from that. So it's no wonder that was the political theory that won out in Iran. That was 90 to 95% Shia Muslim, because they actually created a political theory that spoke to the people's beliefs, their previously held beliefs, and their history. So it's quite interesting. And, again, this is why we support the Islamic Revolution and not some irrelevant party that aligns with us, more so in the books that we read.
Yeah, and a lot of people, as you mentioned, are asking about American Marxism. This is what has been largely missing from the American left, that in part conditions the rise of the ACP, the rise of the Midwestern Marx Institute as a think tank, the various book projects that, I've written the books, but it's based on all these conversations and ideas that have been really developed collectively, that we have spoken many times about, often on stream, before we even get to publish them in book form. And projects like Infrared, which also realizes at a certain moment, I think a very homologous moment to us around 2020, that there's something fundamentally wrong with the American left that is going to continue failing to grab onto the people and to build any sense of a revolutionary movement in this country. And if we don't start from like a 0 point and reassess everything, because the attitude of the left has always been, there's something wrong with the working class. Either the working class is too racist, or it's too uneducated, or it's too in the grips of bourgeois ideology, and it's their false consciousness, and it's this and it's that. Well, what if it's you? What if it's you who have not been up to the standards worthy of someone that's going to play the role of the revolutionary force that transforms American society, the center of global super imperialism? And so we have always gone back to assess what is it that the left could have done better. And one of the central points for us is developing a Marxism that is American, an American Marxism, just like the Chinese have their Sinified Marxism, a Marxism that's attuned to the specific forms the class struggle has taken in the US. And on that basis, an understanding of socialism that builds upon the civilizational, early though it might be very embryonic and undetermined, trajectory that the American project is embarking on. Because every single attempt at building socialism has had to do that in the respective context in which it's been built. That's why we repeat this a million different times, but socialism is the content that has to take on a national form. That expression from Georgy Dimitrov, it's a universal content that in order for it to exist has to take a very particular national form. And if you fail in that last step of figuring out how to give it a particular national form, you're not going to show yourself worthy in the face of world history of receiving that universal content of socialism. And what ends up happening is that history still has to move forward. Remember, there's like 3 different ways in which Marx and Engels described communism. One of them is the real movement of history. You know, in that sense, even the bourgeoisie was a force of communism because they were moving history forward at a certain point. One is communism as the lower stage of history, the dictatorship of the proletariat, and then communism as that society that we're all striving for, the riddle of history solved. When you don't find in the people that call themselves communists people who can actually take up the task of moving history forward and mobilizing the great masses of people, inspiring them to become protagonists and agents in world history, someone is going to. It doesn't have to just be the communists. And what happened in Iran was that the communists were not up to the role history requests from communists, and so someone else took it up. And the people that took it up were the Islamic forces. And it's that simple. And so today, the people who don't know any of the history, who are the textualist, Stalin used to put it in his somewhat anti-Semitic terms, the Talmudic textualist, right? Which is just dogmatists, right? They look and they say, oh, these people have hammer and sickles, and they call themselves Marxists. They're the good guys. And these people are Islamic, and Marxism is against religion, and they're the bad guys. And why would you support these people? That's absurd. Iran is objectively functioning as a force. It doesn't mean it couldn't do it better if it had a more explicit class analysis and its governance, etc. Of course it could. But it's objectively nonetheless functioning as a force that's moving history forward. And rejecting that is falling into dogmatism. It's being anti-Marxist.
Bro, we could probably turn Dan Bilzerian and Jake Shields to communism just by showing them that Stalin quote. He's talking about Talmudic forces. No, that was great. And there's, a lot of uniquely American ideas and thinkers that can be recaptured here, as we've done with Du Bois and others. I see people talking about Thomas Paine in the comments. Thomas Paine was so based. You'll never find a better critique of feudalism than Common Sense. He just destroyed the British with one short pamphlet. It was so radical and really got to the root of what's so stupid about feudalism. It's anti-common sense. Why are you going to be ruled by some, dynasty of individuals who are completely isolated from regular people in their suffering? And in that way, Thomas Paine was really, really a proto-communist. And as Carlos said, you could even call him a communist because he played that role of moving society forward, moving America out of its colonial era, and criticizing these outdated social formations and modes of production.
And Trump said his campaign spirit was common sense.
Yep.
He could have done a very cool thing and just been like a Thomas Paineite for our day. But for anyone interested, I wrote a book called Why We Need American Marxism that tries to assess all of these fucking very important radical Americans and how they would fit within the construction of that project of building American Marxism.
Absolutely. Check it out. I just want to say here, tuning in from my bunker in Tel Aviv, reading some Trotsky.
That's what they're all reading all the time.
Yep, they are. And I just want to say, if you're in a bunker in Tel Aviv right now, send us some super chats because our taxes paid for that bunker. Okay, so you owe us big time is all I'm gonna. I know we have a lot of audience members and bunkers in Tel Aviv right now, so you guys owe us big time. That's
what is it?
all
Their house calls it the treasure chest.
The treasure chest.
Treasure chest. Yeah.
Midwestern Socialist, thank you for the $5. I got a interesting question here. Do you think cash for clunkers was an attack on the poor for affordable used cars during the 2008 financial crisis? I'd have to think about that. What was that again, where you could turn in your cars if they were produced before a certain date?
I don't know.
It was an Obama thing. Cash for clunkers provided $3,000 to $4,000 rebates for trading in and destroying less fuel-efficient vehicles for new fuel-efficient ones. Oh, that had to be a scam, bro. That had to be a scam to get people to buy newer cars and inject money into the auto industry. Because, I mean, the auto industry went under in 2008.
Mm-hmm.
So that was absolutely a scam to get poor people to trade in their perfectly workable, usable cars for nicer ones. Yeah, and at least they got some money out of it. But the freaking, how much money did the banks get after 2008? The government can just print that shit. So absolutely, that had to be an attack on the poor. Interesting question.
I really fuck with like the old 80s cars that had like wood outside of it. You don't see those anymore. And it's because of this. What a shame.
It is because of this. In Chicago, or I mean Illinois, or I don't know if it's just Chicago or all of Illinois, but they have to get their cars' emissions tested every year, and they can get fined if they don't. Sucks. Like that.
You know what? We're bombing Iran and putting like an uncanny amount of oil up in the air and just destroying the fucking planet with bombs. But it's your fucking old Cadillac that's fucking up the environment.
Right. Classic. Driving.
Bro, I missed the time. Oh, that's it. Someone said here about the fucking back in 2008 you can buy a car for like $2,000. I bought my first car. It was a rebuilt title Crown Vic for like $1,200 when I was in high school. It was nothing, bro. That's why it was so fun to crash. You would just crash them. And just buy another one for $1,000.
My car shit out on me today. I'm worried I'm not going to be able to fix it.
You told me the same. You told me the same thing like every 6 months.
I know,
the car blows up.
I know, it's terrible. I got like oil changes on this one. The freaking nobody could figure out what was actually wrong with it.
By the way, oh Jesus Christ, I was gonna send something. In connection to what you're saying, there's an important video we have to react to.
Okay.
Very important.
Should be good.
It should be good. I'm going to send it to you if you could pull it up. I've already seen it. I think it's a very moving video. Double park that shit? No, bro. I used to like hit my wife's mom's car when parking at her house just for the fun of it. But can you pull up the video, Eddie?
Yeah. Oh, I see it.
I want to see what you think of it. Don't watch it until.
Yeah. One sec.
I'm excited to see his reaction.
A traditional Irish pub. Mine's is a bit of a distance away, so naturally to make up for this, I'm going to go in the car. So I get myself ready, and then as we start the car... This is how I celebrate St. Patrick's Day as an Englishman. First, you need to find yourself a traditional Irish pub. Mine's is a bit of a distance away, so naturally to make up for this, I'm going to go in the car. So I get myself ready, and then as we start the car...
Oh, it's too good. It's beautiful. I'm gonna have to follow that guy, whoever he is. Long live the IRA. Reposted that. That's great.
No, my what the fuck? I didn't say that. I said my wife's mom's car. Jesus Christ. They're
Someone
gonna do
clip
a
it.
fucking Rampage Jackson on me. Fuck.
Clip you out of context.
Jesus Christ, yeah.
They are gonna clip that. The leftists are. It's gonna be on the Tanky Deprogram subreddit that we were trolling on the space the other day.
That's the most excited they've been. Finding out some random guy who likes us took their shit and then they took it back and they're like, we beat ACP. What? Meanwhile, ACP's just chilling. Or like the meme.
Right.
Of
They're like, they did a coup. I'm like, what the fuck is going on? Like,
what are you even talking
we
about?
absolutely did not.
We don't have enough neckbeard hair to be on fucking Reddit.
Right. Like, we don't, we're busy doing work in our communities and things that communists should actually do. We're now doing Reddit coups. Although it is cool that somebody who was one of their moderators likes our stuff. I'm sure that'll be happening more and more and more. And these people will just be paranoid, like, UACP? I don't know if it's real people, though. A lot of it's just federal agents, let's be real. Thank you for the 5, comrade. Thanks for the digital materials for the ACB. We're going to become a cadre and improve the Ohio chapter's ACP presence. Yes, awesome. I'm glad to hear it. You bet. We're always here to offer education. Presence, yeah, that's what I thought. Thank you for being a member, and thank you for doing the hard work. That's what's most important, you know. When we're not spearheading Reddit coups, we're doing a lot of really important work in our communities, actually making people's lives better and improving the view of communism in the American public. Like, it's really so important right now because Americans have gotten to the point where they realize they're ruled by this satanic elite, and they're being debt trapped and screwed over and having all of their money sent towards imperialist wars. But the one hurdle that remains to be overcome is they still think, you know, communism is in on the plot to do imperialism and rule over them, when in fact they have that view because they've been lied to about communism by that ruling class, the same way that ruling class has lied to them about everything. So just keep doing the work, keep having faith, and if we get more and more people like you who are dedicated doing that work on the ground, that's how we're going to overcome that obstacle.
And it's so important. I know often people do their work and they feel like, man, it's such a small impact. But it really isn't, especially when you document it and show the world what it is that the ACP is doing. This is what has changed so many people's minds. It might not reflect itself in a fucking rush of people into the party because that's just not how things work. People grow sympathetic first. They stay sympathetic for a very long time. And then eventually they come to join the party. But because of everything that we're doing on the ground, so many people have had their minds changed about ACP. I cannot count how many folks on Instagram just 1 year ago, when I first hopped on the app and had my own account, were extremely anti-ACP, just regurgitating a bunch of idiotic nonsense about us just being a digital thing and crypto scams and just a bunch of streamers and fascists and just horrendous, the stupid smears you all know and hear still. But so many of them, I would say 80% of the most prominent ones that I used to see now are like sympathetic to the ACP because it's hard to argue with results. It's hard to argue with the consistency that our people have around the country, doing things in their community, serving their community, giving people food, giving people clothes, cleaning up roads, engaging in different forms of community service. And it's hard for even people who are seemingly dishonest at first to spend a whole year watching all of you work your asses off to serve your community, to put communism on the map in places that it's never even been close to being put on the map for a very long time. And then for them to sit there, who are not part of any organization, who don't do anything but be virtue signaling keyboard warriors, and continue shitting on the ACP. Your work is absolutely essential because it shows that we're a hell of a lot more active than any of the other organizations whose activity is really reducible to going out, every other weekend to fucking protest something and go out with the same people. And for them, that's a party. That's a party. You take out the fucking tambores, you're dancing, you're chanting, you got the signs, and protests have a place, right? But it's important to remember this distinction that Gramsci makes between the war of positions, which is the battle for the hearts and minds of people, winning their sympathy, pulling them away from the ruling hegemony and towards the counter hegemony you're trying to build. And then the war of maneuvers. The war of maneuvers are the tactics that you use to actually confront the bourgeoisie, to confront the ruling class. Protests are a tactic within the war of maneuver. They're direct frontal warfare against the ruling class. And that works when you have a majority of people, when you have a significant enough contingent of people that the protests are actually a good show of force. When it doesn't work? When you just go out with a few people that are the same people you go out with every weekend, and that just ends up functioning as a sort of libidinal release. What the ACP focuses on is on waging the war of positions, which means showing people through concrete actions and through results what it means to be a communist. Not through argumentation, not through actually attitudes, but through actually serving them. And then when they have questions, we explain things, we explain the myths, we explain all the McCarthyite bullshit that they've been spoon-fed and why it's false. But you need the fundamental action of serving them first, showing them through the deed what is a communist. That is the level in which change is going to begin to be built. And these massive, even the massive protests, they provide a spectacle that makes you think, oh my God, the change is around the corner, but it's not. The change is it's difficult, it's slow, it's going to take a lot of building. In fact, our position is that it's probably going to get a lot worse before it even begins to get better. The American people are probably going to go down a very fucking dark fascistic route, even more than what we have now, before they come to communism, because we are set behind, because the last 60 years of communists haven't done shit. Since the civil rights movement, no one has done anything but tail the Democrats. No one has done anything but tail the Democrats. Since when the Black Panther Party dies, at that moment, basically all forms of legitimate communist organizing in the country are basically gone. And so we are faced with a moment where, had we not been eating shit for the last 50, 60 years, we could have taken advantage of this moment and been a lot stronger than the fascists. But nothing came out of the generations before us, the generations that still are keen on doing the same shit that brought us nowhere. And so we are forced to build up slowly and to ingrain ourselves in community and to change the level of the habits and the institutions that people operate at, because that is how you bring about change today. Because as you were saying it earlier, Eddie, everyone already fucking agrees with us at the level of ideas, because everyone is distrustful of the ruling regime. No one buys into the shit anymore, whether it's fucking JQers or right populists or left. No one buys into the official narratives. Everyone is skeptical of the official institutional narrative. So why isn't change coming? It's because even though at the level of their consciousness and their ideas and what they think that they think, they're critical and they have a cynical distance towards the official ideology, at the level of their practice, which is rooted in hegemonic institutions, they continue to act as if they don't know that they're critical of this. They believe there's no American democracy, that democracy is a myth, but they act as if they didn't believe that. They understand that there's no fucking war that the American empire wages for freedom and democracy and civil rights and all this human rights, whatever the fuck. But they still act as if that's the case, because their actions are fundamentally rooted in institutions that force them to do that. So until we build our own counter-hegemonic institutions that structure new practices, that create new dependencies, and here, honestly, the work that Wade has done in his paper on dual power is actually quite insightful and important, that he did for Red America. Subscribe if you're not subscribed already. It's a great way to help the party financially. That's the only way change is going to come, and that takes a long fucking time.
It's not easy. It's not easy overcoming all that brainwashing and getting someone to commit to being a communist, but they're trickling in every day, and the more we get, the more people with actual influence who we bring on board, the more that'll change. And the larger we become, the more of a sort of snowball effect it'll have. And maybe unfortunately, but this is the reality, the more our country's conditions deteriorate, the more people will be looking for an alternative, which they already are. Cyborg 4706, $50. Thank you very much, my friend. That is a very generous super chat. We appreciate you. That's huge. I'm going to be able to buy a new car now and get my tooth fixed, all because of you. So thank you very much. Appreciate it. Just curious, your guys' thoughts on what reality is, how it pertains to ritualistic sacrifices exposed in the Epstein files, and any reading recommendations related to these topics. Actually, yes. It's a little bit of a niche question, but there is a book called Program to Kill that was criticized a little bit by reviewers because they thought the author was focusing too much on the occult and too much on like ritualistic satanic type stuff, and they wanted it to be more materialist. But now we know, because of the Epstein files, that a lot of the elites are actually engaged in these weird ritualistic type sacrifices. And, maybe as a way to cope with their degenerate behavior, or maybe this is just the logical conclusion of their ideology. They're into like these satanic ideologies, for lack of a better word. I don't know if it's an ideology, but they're like actually satanic. And engaging in the worst, most degenerate kinds of behavior imaginable. And, even though that book was criticized for that, I think it's important, some of the distinctions that the guy makes, or some of the things that he notices with the sort of ritualistic nature of the American ruling class, and some of the, for lack of a better word, satanic stuff that they're engaged in. And that book talks about how it also is a materialist analysis of how the CIA and the ruling class produces serial killers, and America's obsession with serial killers, how they're in the media. We're getting a new Jeffrey Dahmer documentary or Netflix series like every month, it seems. We have a society that like puts these people on a pedestal and looks at them as like sexy. And we have all of these mass shooters, and everyone just talks about the guns, the guns, the guns. It's the guns. You got to take the guns, without looking at any of the underlying factors. Well, maybe it's the satanic ruling class that controls the media. Maybe it's the fact that they constantly have to lie our people into wars where we're torturing people and sexually abusing them at Abu Ghraib, or we're bombing, children filled with schoolgirls in Iran. And our media has to justify this to the American population. What kind of effect does that have on our psyche? It should be no wonder that we have more mass killings and more school shooters than any other country. So Program to Kill is an analysis of that, like the things that the CIA is doing, also like Project MK Ultra and stuff that they're doing directly, but more so about like the culture of violence and like Satanism that's promoted in America by the ruling class today. And I think that dovetails perfectly with some of the most disgusting, disturbing shit that we've read in the Epstein files.
Yeah, and if I can get a little jargony here, like as Frank Sinatra said, rose-colored glasses, everything is rosy now. Reality, and what we understand reality to be, is always mediated by many different factors, by your social background, by your class background, by the era in which you live in, by your very specific individual trajectory in your life. The element of subjectivity and how you're constituted as a subject always mediates what you come to understand as reality. And the ruling hegemonic powers, what they partially try to do in how they constitute you and make you a subject is, as Parenti said, invent a reality that you consider to be reality as such, and therefore accept all of the things that they do within that reality. Now, the reality that a working class member of a capitalist society has is completely different from the reality that any of these parasitic Epstein elites have. They literally feel like gods that can change the world, do things, and get away. I mean, just think about the level of power you feel like you have when the whole world knows that you trafficked, raped, abused, and ate children, and nothing has happened to you legally. God forbid a working class member of society, like myself and many others, go 10 miles over the speed limit. You have to show up to court. You have to pay your fine, as I just did recently. Even if that fine is equal to everyone. And so if a fucking millionaire has the same speeding, to them it's chump change. It's fucking 3 pennies. But for me, it's like maybe the little bit that I was able to save that month that now I have to give to you because I was fucking 5 miles over the speed limit or whatever. But we have to face, poor people and workers, we have to face the consequences of our actions. They don't. And so they develop this sort of God complex that they can literally do whatever they want. And their economic subsistence, how they sustain themselves economically, is literally as a parasite. I mean, these are metaphors, but they're metaphors that accurately describe the relationship that these people have to society. When Marx describes capital as a vampire that sucks the lifeblood of the worker and of what the worker produces, that's a metaphor, but it accurately describes what is going on. And these people's economic day-to-day life is that of a parasite. They're already drinking the blood of the working class before they go on a yacht and drink the blood of a baby. And so why wouldn't they? If their basic economic mode of existence is one that's already parasitic, vampire-like, and monstrous, why wouldn't they depict the same habits and proclivities when it comes to their sexual tastes or their all these other different fucking fetishes that they develop, like drinking the blood of children, eating children, and things of that nature? That's all rooted in the fact that the capitalist class has concentrated power to such an extent that they literally feel like gods, that they can get away with anything. They're above the law, and they're literally vampires in their everyday life. So why not test out eating one of their subjects, one of their modern 3/5 of a human being? Because everyone that's below them, to them, they might as well be slaves.
True. It's like Squid Game.
Yep.
Kind of a goofy analogy, but it's true. I mean, that's literally what the premise of the show is, that the ruling class is bored, so they start throwing people into a competition where they fight to the death for money. I like that show. Thank you, comrade, with the 5. What does some socialism with American characteristics look like? All I care about is high-speed rail, LOL. Thank you for the 5. Yeah, it means high-speed rail for you. It means making America look like China. We can keep some, not exactly like China, but economically, having high-speed rail, having real productive jobs that pay people well, lowering the retirement age, and then eventually even going well beyond what China's doing. And they're in the lower stages of socialism, reaching these higher stages of complete material abundance where people are free to pursue their hobbies and intellectual interests and other pursuits like that, not having to work and work and work and work all the time. No wars.
I just saw that China had a bar that was based on Red Dead Redemption 2.
Yeah, I saw that on your Instagram.
Maybe looking like China is looking like America, looking like China, turn America into Red Dead Redemption. But I mean, at the crux of it, Eddie's right. I mean, the essence of socialism with Chinese characteristics is, yes, you have the aesthetics of the Chinese civilization and some of the wisdom and all that stuff. But the essence of it, the pure content of it, is have a society that serves the people, that develops economically as fast as possible, which doesn't mean this idiotic fast fashion where, look, I can make 3 million shirts in 2 minutes and I'm going to make them and they're all going to end up in a landfill. Or I'm going to make 30 different um, cream pie desserts, and they're all going to end up in a landfill, or we're going to shove fucking what's that politician that's super fat and pro-Israel?
Randy Fine. Randy
Randy.
Swine.
I almost said Randy Travis. That would have been a tragedy, considering his state.
He's still mad about Bud Light going woke.
Well, some of us don't forget. But in any case, it fucking means having an American economy that develops an efficient way of producing abundance and that serves the people, that uses that so that everyone has as good a life as possible, so that everyone has, in a very Aristotelian way, the conditions for as much flourishing as possible, so that you can be the best human fuck. How much potential is stifled by you working 10 hours a day, drowning under the stress of debt and all these different basic realities that you experience under capitalism? I'm reminded by the quote from Stephen Jay Gould.
I'm already pulling it up.
There we go. That's my boy. That he's less impressed with like a fucking Einstein than with the millions of Einsteins that ended up dying in mines and shit like that. Realistically, that's what a socialist society is trying to create. The conditions for the. There we go. What's the I am somehow less interested in the weight and convolutions of Einstein's brain than in the near certainty that people of equal talent have lived and died in cotton fields and sweatshops. What socialism does is afford all of those people in cotton fields and sweatshops and mines, etc., the opportunity to exert their potentials plentifully, to be as free as they possibly could within the confines that are compatible with the interests of society and the human community. It's in that sense like realizing the project that political philosophy always had from Plato onwards. This is the point that Boris Groys makes in the Communist Postscript. Like, communism literally realizes the goal of philosophy, which is to create a society that creates the conditions for the greatest amount of human flourishing. And to do that, you need material abundance and economic development. That's what China has done. We're going to do that with American socialism as well. Except it's going to look a little bit more American. We'll have Merle Haggard instead of Confucius, but we're still going to have prosperity.
Capitalism is a society that functions for the benefit of capital. You could argue finance capitalism is a society that functions for the accumulation of money and paper and digital forms. And socialism is a society that functions for itself. Which means that right now we have a society that's the way it functions is not to improve society. It doesn't. Its inner contradictions means that America acts in a way, our government and our ruling elite act in a way that's contradictory to our own interests and force the masses to act in a way that's contradictory to their own interests. Socialism is when we have a society that functions to improve society and those living within it. Thank you, Osos. Appreciate you, brother. Long time comrade, infrared comrade, and Midwestern Marks. W stream and W hockey jersey. Thank you, brother. I appreciate it. This was like $10 on the TikTok shop, so cop your own.
Torta Pounder 3000.
We should start selling these.
Do you know where that's from?
No, what is it?
I was doing a live stream on TikTok, and I think it was Osos who went in the comments with a name that said Torta Pounder 3000. And in the middle of a debate, I was like, I'm so sorry. I can't concentrate on what you're saying. There's someone called Torta Pounder 3000 in the comment sections. And they've been making like a million memes out of it on Discord. I love it.
Oh, that's so funny. I'm going to keep laughing at that. Can I do a victory lap real quick? I know nobody cares about this. Thank you, Partisan Pro. ACP chapter in the Dakotas and Montana win. There's like 4 people there, so that's going to be tough. But hopefully soon. We got to keep growing. We got to reach our... I have a buddy from Montana. I know one person in my life from Montana. But his screen name is Torta Pounder 4000. I'll see if I can get him on board. But yeah, there's not a lot of people there. But eventually, in the Dakotas, you would have to I don't know about Montana, but the Dakotas, you would probably have to reach the indigenous populations. There's a lot of them, and which means we would need to get some people there who could speak to issues that are directly affecting them, which I know everybody thinks we're like want to genocide indigenous people or something,
Right.
but they have a lot of unique issues in America. You know, the reservations, the alcoholism rates, they have to rely on the casino economy. It's fucked up, man. We want to liberate those people and give them, you know, self-determination over their own land.
We have a higher rate of indigenous in leadership than any of the organizations that endorse land back.
That's
a
true.
fact.
That's true. Remember,
1/14th indigenous leadership, baby.
remember when some white leftist was calling us fascists because we're anti-land back, and we said they should have to give their house to Kyle? If you truly support land back, give the deed to your house to Kyle right now.
But we need to get better at oral forming. If we had like videos from the Dakotas riding buffalo with like guns, Colts 45s on our hip, we'd
Spears.
get so many people.
We would. That would be
Let's
sick.
make it happen. Can we get
My
more
brother-
oral forming videos from the chapters? Horse
Dude.
riding, buffalo riding,
I'm
There's
working
like-
on it.
dinosaur fairs. If you can ride a dinosaur with a rifle or something.
This is like the main thing we've been working on with the media team is like more people riding buffaloes. In a sense, like more aura farming, more badass hype edits. Like that's what the people want to see. It's what the younger generation wants to see. So, and trust me, it's in the works, guys. It's not just going to be VOs of me and Carlos talking about theory and history. Those will continue, of course. We'll continue to do educational videos, but we're going to have some hype ass edits coming out of the ACP soon and coming out at the chapter level as well. So I hope you're ready for some sick media content. We've been working hard on it, me and the other media team leaders. But anyways, I know nobody cares anymore and everyone knows John Fetterman sucks, but I said John Fetterman sucks from the beginning, and I have never been attacked so hard in my life. I've never gotten ratioed on TikTok like I did when I said that John Fetterman is an imperialist who can't be trusted. He's like, what do you support, Dr. Oz? One guy who claimed to be a communist said, Fetterman's my neighbor, and trust me, you shouldn't be attacking him. I'm like, what am I supposed to make of that? Like, the guy's, avowed imperialist, lifetime politician, LARPing as a proletarian by wearing a Carhartt sweater, but I'm supposed to support him because he's your fucking neighbor? Like, what are you guys talking about? It was very typical of dealing with the American left of old, the non-ACP American left. And now John Fetterman had a stroke and maybe died, and he's been being controlled like a puppet by AIPAC donors. And he's the most disgusting pro-war Zionist shill scumbag politician in America and in the Democratic Party, which is saying a lot. So I just have to, I've brought this up maybe 10 times on stream. I've just never been so vindicated in my life. This is literally like Danny Shaw LARPing as a proletarian by wearing a Carhartt sweater. That's John Fetterman. So here's what this moron had to say.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I am the only Democrat that is absolutely fully supportive of what the president has done, with Epic Fury, and that's isolated me as in my party. But for me, generation now, we are losing generations in my party to supporting Israel, and really the nation there, the only nation in the region that has the kind of values that we, as a Democrat, we want to live under that. So yeah. For me, I don't follow the polls. I'm going to follow the moral clarity of Israel, and I'll be the one Democrat to celebrate, continue to eliminate, leadership that just a couple weeks ago just executed thousands of their own.
He's literally saying, I don't follow my own constituents. I follow the moral clarity of Israel. Whatever Israel wants, that's what I'll do. I don't care about the polling among the people that I was elected to serve. So I've had some people actually come into the chat and apologize for criticizing me over my Fetterman take. But for everyone who hasn't apologized yet, I want a written letter in my mailbox saying I will never doubt Eddie Liger again when it comes to these Democratic Party scumbags. Like, it's just amazing to me. I'll never forget that, how there were hundreds of comments defending John Fetterman, and now everybody realizes what we realized back then. It's like, wasn't that hard to see, bro? He was a career politician who supported interventionism from the beginning. And like, yeah, now he had a stroke and he can't control himself. But like, if every Democratic Party politician had a stroke, they would all talk like this because this is what they believe, right? They're good at wrapping it up in this flowery rhetoric about humanitarianism and all this bullshit. But you know, because Fetterman's brain doesn't work anymore, he can't do that. So he just says what he actually thinks, which is Israel told me to do this. I do not care what the polls of my own constituents say. Israel has moral clarity. And I don't know. I don't know what else to say about it at this point. You guys all owe me an apology. Chuche with Eddie Lager characteristics, exactly. It's just like Kat Abuga Labubu who supports Taiwan and Ukraine. Yes, bro. They're producing these people in a fucking lab. People like this are the Dick Cheneys of our era.
Yeah.
Kat Abuga Labubu is so disgusting. I am so glad she I'm so glad she lost her election. She lost to some Zionist scumbag bastard who should be gulagged, but she should be in the. I'm just glad we don't have to hear from her for the next 2 years.
I never got the Fetterman hype.
It was literally the Carhartt sweater.
Yeah.
Sorry,
yeah,
go ahead.
After 2020, well, even since 2016, I don't think I've ever been excited about a Democrat, even though I was very young. But 2020, it was like, let's give Bernie one more shot. But after that, if you're still excited about Democrats and you've seen 2016 and 2020, you should go seek a physician and some sort of medical help because there's something wrong.
Exactly. And I was going to say that I didn't, but part of the reason I knew Fetterman was a hack was because of our experience with Bernie. And, you know, you get told by all these people who spend all day on Reddit, oh, no, you don't understand. We just need to support all the pan left. You know, anyone who's left, we need to go fight and vote for them. It's like, you're not the ones fighting. If you were on the ground organizing for Bernie and Kataboogalaboo, you would know that the shit doesn't work. You would be like, wow, that was a fucking waste of my time. I'm not going to do that again. I'm going to join the ACB. But a lot of these people who say this just spend all day on Reddit, like crossing their fingers and hoping that DSA wins another election, like it's actually going to do something this time. So, yeah, I just had to. And of course, under John Fetterman, it says Nick Shirley coming up, that mentally retarded YouTube boy who like is now the face of the Republican Party. He can barely string a sentence together. He just repeats Somali scammers over and over and over again. And now he's a hero of the Republicans. So.
Jesus.
Thank you, Midwestern Socialist. I got a video for you called, dude, I'll try to look it up. My keyboard is not Russian. I need Yulia in here right now. My girlfriend could read that.
It actually spells out cat boogala boo boo.
How am I supposed to? I might have found it. No. Is that a 6? What do I have to search in English to get this to come up? Someone who speaks Russian, tell me in the chat. God. My girlfriend's asleep. She could actually read that and tell me how to find it. Copy paste. I don't know if I can on StreamYard. Here, let me go to the YouTube chat.
If you go to
Carlos, take it away. I'm gonna find it.
Okay. Take it away. Let's do some singing. Let's do
Sing the Lamentations.
Wake me up. Wake me up in time. But
Socialism.
I'm just excited about the next super chat. Guys, it's way too late, bro. I talked for like 6 hours before hopping on, and my brain is mush.
Yikes.
And then I had like a 2-hour meeting. So excuse the smooth brain commentary.
We appreciate you for being here. Can I not copy paste? Oh, there it is. Okay. Copy. If I was on Streamlabs, we wouldn't have this problem, but we haven't gotten Streamlabs to work with two of us yet.
That's
Okay, this looks like some good stuff.
Oh, I love the old Soviet cars.
Наверно, скоро мы ходить разучимся. Уже привычка ездить нас живет. Пройти пешком всего 2 шага мучимся. 100 километров на авто не в счет.
Автомобили, автомобили, буквально все заполонили. Там, где компания лежала пыль, сквозь лет оставил автомобили, 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 буквально все заполонили. Там, где компания лежала пыль, сквозь лет оставил автомобили.
Мотора рев для нас звучит как музыка.
1986. This is the only thing that kept the USSR alive for another 4 years. This was it.
Как аромат вдыхаемый бензин. Что нужно нам? Шоссе полоска узкая.
Does anyone know what they're singing about?
Automobiles.
Are they? Found your new opening theme. Yes, I love this. We should create this as an intro for the Applied Theory podcast. Yes, Soviet cars are the best. It looks like it. These cars are pretty sick. I
You can hit
know.
them with a fucking 18-wheeler, nothing happens.
That's what I've heard. I mean, we were told in school that they all had to drive the same car, right? But if they're sick cars, who cares? All right. I love that. Thank you for sharing. I can't wait to show that to my Polish girlfriend. Torta Pounder 5,000.
Based.
Let's go.
That's an accurate depiction of the executive board of the ACP.
Oh my god, that's so funny.
Based.
Thank you for the
It's an accurate depiction of Dugan too, I've heard.
It is.
He was kidding.
Have you heard the Welsh socialist band Manic Street Preachers? They still use socialist imagery today. Seen them live 4 times. I haven't, but that sounds sick. I'll have to check them out. Thank you, Torta Pounder 5,000. Dude, everyone in our chat, it's just going to be Torta Pounder with a different number.
Every time we say Torta Pounder, they make an edit for some esoteric Discord somewhere with 8 ACP guys in capes who are just fucking loving this. Torta
That's so
Pounder 7,000.
Thank you, Torta Pounder 5,000. What's the Marxist take on the Iranian diaspora? I mean, what can there even be said about that? It's the same as Cuban gusanos, Venezuelan gusanos. They're traitors to their country. They're servants to the American empire. It's funny how a lot of them think like Pahlavi and the monarchy are going to be reinstalled too. And Trump has openly said like they're not popular enough. We can't put them in power because nobody in Iran actually likes them. And then you have like these OnlyFans models stripping on camera, like, I'm doing this for the monarchy. It's returning. Like, yeah, bombing 160 young schoolgirls in your country of origin. I'm sure that'll bring the monarchy back. And why would you want to bring the monarchy back? They were horrible. They were trained by Mossad. But that's the thing. These people are imperialists. You know, you're going to have reactionaries in every country. Like, this is a lot of people like fetishize on the left in America, like fetishize the global South and stuff and think everybody there knows everything. But, you know, and communist parties in a lot of other countries have been better than the American left for years. but you're going to have reactionaries in every single country, right? There's the Indian Hindutva. There's a right wing in Russia. They're not super popular, but they exist. There's Cuban gusanos, Venezuelan gusanos. There's right wingers everywhere, and a lot of times they come to America and they get nice, cushy media positions, just shitting on their country of origin. They get rewarded. It's like the more bullshit they can say about their home country, the more they get rewarded. So imagine the kind of psychology that sets up with these Iranian diasporoids. Well, I can get on Fox News if I say that my country ate 80,000 babies, and I watched it happen. So it's the same with the South Korean defector industry. They give people money and incentivize them financially to just shit on the DPRK. And of course, you're going to have losers and opportunists who take them up on that.
Yeah, and that's because every single revolution is a civil war. Every single revolution is a civil war. There's a part of it that is composed of the communities that constituted the previous ruling class. They're obviously going to fucking flee. They're obviously going to flee. And there's also a bunch of people that are just, even though they're represented in terms of their class interest by the new revolution, they're still identifying culturally with the old regime, and so they flee and they become the most reactionary sectors of the societies that they end up going to. That's the case with the Venezuelans, the Cubans, the fucking Iranians, the Chinese diaspora. A lot of them are fucking insufferable. The Shenyun people, literally disgusting. Yeah, Iranians are amongst the worst though.
True, they are. They give the gusanos a run for their money. Bro, what the hell?
Wait, what?
This is the comment I was laughing at.
Oh my god.
It's disgusting, but then the part, if you look at it long enough, you can verify it's real. He's just sitting here looking at it. Oh my god.
Are you winning, son? I'm doing research, Dad.
We gotta verify it's real. Oh, it's too late for this. Thank you, Midwestern Socialist, for another 2. Appreciate you, brother. There's another called Emberek Wind Carries by Omnist. Right.
I think he might be from the Midwest of Russia.
Yeah, right? This guy knows his Russian art and culture. I like that. That's going to be my new jam at the gym. Do you think this is Haz's alt? Carlos Garrido. Thank you for the 2. Oh my god.
Oh my god.
God bless the ACP. Happy St. Patrick's. Thank you.
What
I actually
was that picture. Jesus.
What?
Christ. What was that picture? Was that you and fucking me as buff motherfuckers? No, the other one.
Oh.
That's us, bro.
It's us. One of them's
That's
Fidel,
us.
or maybe you.
What the fuck?
I have to say the name. Sorry. Torta Pounder 3036.
2036.
Cousin of Torta Pounder 5000. Torta Pounder 2036.
7,000, yeah.
That's socialism. We'll have it by 2036. And we'll be able to pound tortas. So it is St. Patrick's Day coming up. I was just wondering, this isn't as good as the video that you showed me, but I was wondering what you think of this. It was on the local news.
Well, just in time for St. Patrick's Day, crowds are coming by the dozens to get an up-close view at what some say is a piece of Irish folklore.
Some people in the Crichton area of Mobile say a leprechaun is taking up residence in their neighborhood. A leprechaun. NBC 15's Brian Johnson has more.
Curiosity leads to large crowds in Mobile's Crichton community. Many of you bringing binoculars, camcorders, even camera phones to take pictures.
To me, it look like a leprechaun to me. All I gotta do is look up in the tree. Who else seen the leprechaun? Say yeah!
Eyewitnesses say the leprechaun only comes out at night. If you shine a light in its direction, it suddenly disappears. This amateur sketch resembles what many
I've seen that picture, but I hadn't seen the sketch. But I know that Key and Peele did one based on it.
This was a real news report.
That's
it's
insane.
probably like back when the local news and even the liberal media was more like overtly racist. It was probably like something to try and make black people look bad or something, even though they're clearly just fucking around. But
That's
this
the
is
guy.
hilarious. That's Torta Pounder 3000. That's him. That's all. The rest of it's just them searching for the leprechaun. They never quite find it.
That's unfortunate.
Osos, thank you for the 5. Torta socialism, absolutely. That's what socialism with Torta Pounder characteristics.
There we go.
That's what we endorse
You gotta write
here.
the book.
Based. Thank you. Thank you for the 5, Torta Pounder. Hi, I'm Torta Pounder myself. I consist of 50% Labubu Riz and 50% just a sweet little emo boy from Ohio. Seriously, though, massive love. Thank you, brother. I appreciate that. You went as far as to change your name to Torta Pounder 5000 for us, so the love is felt for sure. And
Whoever tattoos Torta Pounder 3000 is gonna get a signed copy of all of my books. If you can send me a verification that you tattooed Torta Pounder 3000 on you, I'm sending you a signed copy of my book.
Gotta say that, and then just this. Like on your chest.
Yes. Let's do it.
It's like the 4th one, I know. Holy shit, that's so funny. Bro, it's on. If you're in the ACP, just make sure that tattoo's hidden. Please. Please don't. Or maybe do. Maybe do put it visibly and go out in public. That might be what we need.
Starter.
Exactly. Like, what is socialism to you? Like, well, this. This is pretty much it.
Universal basic tortas. Universal basic healthcare.
I had one thing. Well, 2 things. These are quick. We can wrap up soon. I know you're tired, but this was funny. CIA in movies, Mission Impossible type shit. CIA in real life, you are gay. Which, this is a real strategy, dude. They've used this against Gaddafi. They used it against Saddam, and they used it against Assad recently. And now they're using it against the new Ayatollah. Like, this is literally their propaganda strategy to demonize these people. Look at this. CIA secret Iraq weapon revealed, a Saddam gay sex tape. Gay porn found in raid on Gaddafi's home, and never any evidence, of course. With Assad, I think they had like a picture of him in his underwear with like a machine gun, and they were like, Assad is gay. Like
the straightest thing ever.
Right, literally the most
cowboy boots, fucking AK.
Exactly, or maybe, and then there was one of him like in a hot tub with other guys, which they do that to the Russians too. But it's the Russians do that because like they're so straight. Like not even they sit in a hot tub with all these dudes half naked, and they're like, this isn't gay, these are my boys. Like, and then Americans see it and they're like, no, that's gay.
It's only straight if you have chlorine in the water.
Yes. And now we have this today from the New York Post, or yesterday. Trump briefed that Iran's new supreme leader is probably gay. So this is the CIA's greatest strategy. This is the best they've got.
It's still the fucking agenda of the lavender scare.
Yep.
It's the same shit. And just like back then, it was pure projection. The guy that was calling a bunch of communists gay was literally gay himself.
Yeah, what was that guy's name? They did a movie.
Herbert Hoover.
He was the president, but who was J. Edgar Hoover?
Yeah.
Yes. No, he was like a cross-dresser and like super gay behind the scenes. And every communist he would smear as gay because, you know, society was more anti-gay back then. Now I think everybody just laughs at this shit. I don't know anyone who's like, what? Leader of Iran, gay? I'm enlisting right now. Like, you know, we're surrounded by gay stuff. And then
no, but didn't Trump say that he recently said something about the Iranians treating the gays in not the best way possible.
To Jake
You know?
Paul.
Yeah,
They were
of all
using
people.
that as a justification for regime change, saying we need to bring them gay rights. Like, I feel like I'm watching Hillary and Obama invade Libya all over again. Like, what is this? It's freaking crazy, man. It's crazy. Like, they're grasping at straws. The support for this war is so low. It is below 25%, which, I mean, if you remember Iraq, I mean, we don't really remember it. We were too young, but everybody knows Iraq is a disaster now. But after 9/11, there was like 90% support for Afghanistan. And then it died down a little bit because, you know, people wised up. And usually people are never fully on board with war unless you have a potentially false flag type attack like 9/11 to rile them up. But even for Iraq, it was like 60-70%, and now it's down to 24%, which shows that we are making progress in America. People's consciousness is moving forward. It's just been a slow and arduous process, and a lot of people have had to die. I mean, yeah, think about those. This is kind of related to that, like people who have died fighting against U.S. empire and here at home or abroad have kind of paid they have paid the ultimate sacrifice, but they have helped move things forward. And October 7th is the perfect example of that. You know, those guys sacrificed their lives. All of the people of Gaza sacrificed their lives, but they woke Americans up to the evils of Israel and this imperialist colony in the Middle East. So,
the whole world.
The whole world. Exactly. And speaking of people in America turning against the war, check this out. This is pretty interesting. This is from Pennsylvania. This woman is a 3-time Trump voter. Ardent Trump voter through and through. What?
That's not a woman.
Not this guy. This is the reporter. He's going to interview a woman.
I don't mean to be non-woke, but that didn't.
He's not passing very well.
Let's take a listen to one more woman who we spoke with. If you could say something to President Trump and he was going to hear you right now, what would it be?
You are a worthless pile of
Based.
And you voted for him how many times?
3 times. That was my bad. I'm an idiot.
And it goes back to what I was saying before. Like, people are quote tweeting this and saying, "Oh, so the genocide wasn't bad enough," which, yes, but I get what you're saying. But most Americans are like this. They're just going to work. They're not glued to Twitter or geopolitics or thinking about people in other countries. They're thinking about paying their bills. They're thinking about putting food on the table for their family. And now, because of the decay and parasitism of imperialism, because of the way imperialism is backfiring on the home country here, you notice she's at the gas pump. She can't afford gas, and she's turning on the imperialist president because of that. And this is a great time to go to people like this and draw that connection between these endless wars and the way that it affects the working class here at home. And more people are going to draw that connection as time passes, I think. And because gas prices are only going to continue to go up as long as this war continues and the Strait of Hormuz remains closed. It's also accelerating the decline of dollar hegemony because they're not letting, U.S. or U.S. allies through the Strait of Hormuz, but they're letting China in. And even explicitly saying it, if you're going to buy oil and let it pass through here, it has to be bought in, a different currency. So.
It's interesting because the obsession with gas is related to this very general quantitative fetish of capitalist rationality, where things become meaningful once you can translate it into numbers. And so you talk about the fucking the GDP being up however many points. What the fuck does that qualitatively mean for regular people? In terms of GDP, you consuming 2 packs of cigarette is the same as you consuming 2 fucking apples. It's all reducible to quantity. It's all commensurated. All quality is commensurated, and what matters is quantity. But when that's the rationality of your society, and you use numbers and the manipulation of numbers to get people to think one thing or another and to craft narratives, there's a number that you can't really fuck with that much, which is the fucking what you're paying for at the gas tank. It's a very important number that people have to engage with twice a week. And when you see that go up, you notice instinctually something is wrong. You can manipulate everything. What you can't manipulate is that last week gas was at 260 or whatever the fuck. This week is at 340.
Exactly. Because of the labor theory of value, which still holds when it comes to actual industrial production. Yeah. Yeah, I only had one more thing. Well, I had that Joe Kent guy who resigned, which Tulsi Gabbard is such a cowardly freaking wench for not following this guy's lead and resigning. But this is a big deal. He said that the U.S. was pressured into this war by Israel, resigned. His wife was killed in Syria by U.S. and Israeli-backed terrorists. And he was part of the Trump administration because he thought they wouldn't start any new wars, but they did. So there's that. And then also in Latvia, they were doing a day of remembrance and giving flowers to a Waffen-SS soldier, which I've gotten in some debates about the Baltics with people on TikTok who are like, the Soviets occupied and oppressed the Baltics. It's like, this is why. There were literally Waffen-SS divisions in Latvia that are still being honored there today because the Soviet Union is no longer still around to make sure that this kind of disgusting ideology can't come to the fore. So those were the stories I had for today. Jackson can make his return to the U.S. like Khomeini. Gonna come back on a tank. Just wait. All right, you got anything else, Carlos?
No, brother, I'm cooked. Yep. I've been doing mental labor, unproductive, worthless PMC slop labor for the last like fucking 12 hours today. Had like a couple hours of resting for a workout and then had to get back to it the last 6 hours. So I'm pretty fucking drained.
I bet. I actually had some energy today. I didn't have to run practice because one of the local high schools gave me an award. It's pretty cool for helping out it's like an award that they give to someone who helps the community and the kids at the school. So that was kind of an honor.
We got to post it on fucking...
Post it on Midwestern Marx. Post it on
I was looking at this liberal PMC. Let's go. I'm very liberal. Eddie knows I'm extremely liberal.
Yes.
I was saying ACP Iowa. Local ACP Iowa executive board member helps kids while the Epstein regime rapes them.
That definitely won't get me fired. Honestly, the people in this community, it's like a rural community, they might like it.
The Epstein regime rapes kid. American Communist Party helps kids.
It's me with my award.
Endorsed by, and then you put whoever gave you the award.
Endorsed by head coach. Buddy. Who is now a member. Sweet. All right, everybody. Thanks for hanging out today. Thanks for all the super chats. You guys were very generous today. Appreciate you all. Patreon.com/MidwesternMarx. Let's keep pounding tortas and organizing the working class.
Stand up, all victims of oppression, for the tyrants fear your might. Don't cling so hard to your possessions, for you have nothing if you have no right. Let racist ignorance be ended, for respect makes the empires fall. Freedom is merely privilege extended, unless enjoyed by one and all. So come, brothers and sisters, for the struggle carries on. The Internationale unites the world in the song. So comrades, come rally, for this is the time and place. The international ideal unites the human race. Let no one build walls to divide us, walls of hatred nor walls of stone. Come greet the dawn and stand beside us. We'll live together or we'll die alone. In a world poisoned by exploitation, those who have taken, now they must give. And end the vanity of nations, we've but one earth on which to live. So come brothers and sisters, for the struggle carries on. The Internationale unites the world in the song. So comrades, come rally, for this is the time and place. The international ideal unites the human race. And so begins the final drama, in the streets and in the fields. We stand unbowed before their armor, we defy their guns and shields. When we fight, provoked by their aggression, let us be inspired by life and love. For though they offer us concessions, change will not come